Okay, I want to walk you through one of my clients' transformations so far. I say so far because we're not done yet, but she is 14 pounds down. This is Kendall. Kendall is a hybrid athlete who came to me doing the absolute freaking most, which is an issue I see with a lot of overachieving athletes, former athletes, women who are super high functioning. Um, this is like the prime example of training smarter, not harder, will get you where you want to go. We are 14 pounds down, and that isn't all from a diet, and it's simply from doing less and being intentional about what we do. So as you can see, waist has tapered quite a bit, shoulders shaping up. She is absolutely freaking getting shredded. Legs are leaning out, and half the time was spent in a reverse diet. So I want to show you what she was doing when she came to me. These are actually notes from her onboarding. When Kendall came to me, she was not someone who was not trying. She was doing the most, like I said. She was training for a half marathon at the time, so that required her to run quite a bit. But then on top of her actual half marathon training, she was adding in lifts. So she was lifting and running 5 to 6 days a week. She was cycling high, medium, and low calorie days. She was walking quite a bit, lifting, like I said, almost every day. She was coaching clients on top of that. She had just gotten a puppy, so her sleep wasn't great, and she just was high stress looking after this living, breathing thing that was pooping all over her house and not sleeping. She was doing everything she could think of to recover. She was trying to go in the sauna. She was trying to sleep more, but it wasn't really working. And she took a rest day, like a full rest day. She would run most days. Sometimes she'd add on another run or two. So she really wasn't resting. Let's be honest. It looks like she's checking every box from here, right? You're like, wow, she's so dialed. She was doing all of those things. But when you zoom out, her body never really had a chance to adapt to anything. Every stressor on its own might have been manageable, but when you stack all of this, eventually her body starts spending more resources trying to recover from all of this and survive instead of adapting to the stimulus and changing. A lot of people think fat loss is just let me create this giant calorie deficit, which is what she was trying to do, and it's not. It's about creating a deficit your body can actually respond to while recovering enough to train well, preserve muscle, regulate hunger, maintain energy, right? So the first thing we did when I got her was not actually cut calories. We recomped a little bit. So calories actually stayed pretty steady and slightly increased for the first section here, as you can see. So we really hovered around the same kind of 180 to 176 area. A lot of that change really was just inflammation based on how hard she hit her runs and training that day. But yeah, all we did was actually increase fuel. We needed to help her body recover and lower stress, and food was the answer, right? We think reverse diet is like this like magical tool, and it's really just not, right? A reverse diet is just about lowering the stress on the body and giving the body time and fuel to train with quality so she can push harder in the gym. She can recover harder when she's home. Her sleep could get better because if you're under fueled, your lifts suffer, recovery suffers, sleep suffers. You don't build or maintain muscle as effectively, and over time your body's just going to become less responsive. We needed to improve the environment before asking her body to respond and lose fat. So once we had done that, we moved into a cut. And one of the first nutritional changes I made was getting rid of this weird kind of medium day, right? The medium day was diluting the purpose of the high days and the low days, in my opinion. And at first glance, you might be like, wow, that's way more precise. And I asked her, I'm like, do you know what the purpose of this medium day was from your previous coach? And she said, oh, I think it's for the days that I like lift but not run, or run but not lift, like the days I'm not as active but I need more fuel, which I can understand that logically, in reality, it's not really enhancing anything. High days exist to support your hardest training sessions, replenish your glycogen, right? And help improve performance. They give your body periods where energy availability is higher when we need it. And low days exist to create the calorie deficit. And we take our low days on days that we're not expending as much energy. The medium days don't accomplish either of those things. They don't fuel performance like the high days, and they don't create as much of a deficit like the low days. So why would we do that? And they just complicate her meal prep and her execution, right? More chances to mess it up when you have more variables changing. So by removing them, we created intentional nutrition. We fueled on the hard days that required it. We pulled back on the days that don't. Simpler to follow, easier to recover from, creates a larger separation between her intake across the week without me having to slash calories even further. So then we looked at her training. Now, her training was where she was getting the most stuck. She had just completed a half marathon, right? She was still wanting to carry running volume into her fat loss phase. Running is an incredible tool, but it also creates fatigue. It also creates hunger. Every mile has a cost, a recovery cost. And if your primary goal is body recomp, body composition change, you have to ask yourself if every mile is still giving you the highest return on investment. And for her, it was not. We wanted to create more of her recovery capacity, and for all of that recovery to really work in her favor so that the fuel went towards her lifting and she was recovered for her lifts because she's scary strong. Her words, not mine. First time I ever met her, she said, I'm scary strong. And she is. But she wasn't scary strong when she was running because she just was not recovered. Muscles, metabolically active muscles, what allows us to look athletic instead of simply looking like a smaller version of what she wanted to change, right? So if all of our energy is going towards recovering from endurance work, she did not have enough left to progressively overload her lifts with quality. So we intentionally reduced her running volume after that half marathon, right? It didn't match our goal. We added more steady state cardio and sprint work. Steady state cardio has a relatively low cost, so we could continue increasing kind of energy expenditure without digging a deeper recovery hole. The sprint work gave us high quality conditioning stimulus in a much shorter period of time than a long run, while also keeping the athleticism in her program. The incline walk was kind of like the happy medium. We did some interval training in that incline walk, once again, just to focus on epoch because she's used to expending so many calories, right? So we have to create that same calorie expenditure because her baseline is so high without doing all of that work so she can recover. Most importantly, she's a business owner. She's a coach. Time and energy are resources too. If someone spends an extra 5 hours every week doing cardio, that's 5 hours they're not spending building their business, resting, living life, right? She's in a relationship. She wants to enjoy that. So we bought her some time back, right? The most effective plan is not the one that's just going to be like, do the most, burn the most calories. It's one someone can recover from consistently. Then we focused heavily on recovery, right? So we worked on improving sleep. We talked a lot about nervous system regulation. We worked on pulling her away from the mindset of every workout had to be perfect. Every meal had to be perfect because constantly feeling like you're behind creates stress itself. When your nervous system is always operating in overdrive, recovery is less efficient, training quality drops, decision fatigue increases. Everything starts feeling really hard and much harder than it needs to feel. And the goal was not just to simply lower cortisol. That's an oversimplification. The goal was to improve her overall ability to recover between stimulus, between training, right? We needed every lift, every cardio session, and every calorie we were eating to work harder for her. That is how we went from 179 to 180 to 167 pounds during this phase. Hello. But honestly, the number isn't the biggest thing here. I'm more impressed by the fact that she stopped trying to outwork her body and started working with her body, right? She learned that fat loss isn't about seeing how much you can suffer and how much you can tolerate. It's about understanding what your body needs to perform well, recover well, preserve muscle, and then create an effective deficit, the smallest effective dose to move forward with our goal. That's what's sustainable, repeatable, and in the long run, that is what's going to get her the results that she is looking for without having to work twice as hard. And in turn, it has improved her coaching, her training methodology times 20, because she is now translating that to her clients and helping them work smarter, not harder. She's not doing weird, kind of ineffective nutrition strategies based on training volume. She is looking at the data, looking at physiology, and making the two meet in the middle. And I am so proud of her for that. So if you want to transform like Kendall, link in the bio to work with me, baby. We ain't done.